March 18th, 2022. As part of a larger Europe trip, I got to experience the Italian Dolomites for the very first time with my mates TK and Mitch. I've seen so many mountain ranges in so many different countries, but even in the car on the way here, I knew that this was different. I could feel its difference. We started on the east side at a place called Lake Misurina, a gorgeous lake that, of course, even in winter, was frozen and snowed over. And this would become a theme of the trip, not being able to fully appreciate all of the wonderful lakes around the Dolomites, but winter has its own special appeal, especially for Aussies like us. My first sunrise of the trip would be at Passo di Giao, a 2,200 meter high mountain pass, and the first of many winding roads and towering mountains that would literally and metaphorically take my breath away. While the cars were making their way up the pass slowly one by one, we spent the morning watching the moon rise, watching the first light hit the peaks of Ragazela, and walking in the snow.
It's so cold, it's so cold, it's so cold,
It was a good taste of what was to come in the afternoon. More hiking in the snow up to Trecime, which is a set of 3 peaks surrounded by more mountain ridges than you could know what to do with. Trecime for me was one of the highest priority things to do on the list. For me, it's one of those places that illustrates what I think is the quintessential Dolomites experience. This and Seceda, which we'd be exploring in just a few days' time. We had to take a snowmobile up to the trailhead because the road was completely snowed over. And the view at the top was just, stunning. The hike was fairly straightforward, but the snow was really deep in some places and it was super easy to fall in. But because it was winter, we had the entire place to ourselves, and aside from scaling some sketchy cliff faces to get to a cave, it was a very peaceful experience. On the hike back down the mountain, even though the snowmobiles had stopped for the day, we were lucky to be offered a lift halfway down. It was a simple experience that for me was still super fun and a great way to end a fantastic day. Of course, the next day was spent resting after the big hike. We spent the day editing and hanging out, heading out around a town called Cortina d'Ampezzo for some drone action and some food. The rest was needed because the next sunrise, day 4 of my Dolomites trip, was gonna be a full one. And the first stop of the day, Lago di Braies. And of course, the lake was frozen, but there was still a part of the lake just 50 meters down from the main area where it was unfrozen and the water was so still. Although I'd love to come back here in summer, even as it was right then, it was still so damn beautiful and I was so grateful to be there. During the day we had to transit to a new accommodation. I said hello to the farm dog and the cat, and we made our way to the Church of St. John for sunset. This and the next sunset was spent in a way that I love. A super relaxed afternoon with simple subjects and simple compositions. I love those days where I'm able to take my time to just nature bathe while taking a few shots here and there and slowly observe the sun going down. Those kind of afternoons are the best. The next day's afternoon was like that as well. No sunrise at all, just a chill afternoon spent on a hill in Castle Ruth, watching the sun go down and taking a few photos of St. Valentine. It was quiet and relaxed, with not a single cloud in the sky. Day 6 of my Dolomites trip was by far my favorite. It started at Secheda, a place that has been on my bucket list for forever, at least ever since I started photography anyway. I had seen so many photos of this place in the past, and I feel like I'd already been there before even really being there. Because it was winter, we couldn't climb up there and go for sunrise, and the earliest gondola up there was 8 AM, so by the time we got there, the light was already pretty well cooked, but it was still damn stunning, and it was everything that I had imagined it to be. We explored around the area for a bit, and then I made the hike to one of the closer peaks so that I could get a different angle. The hike was like crazy muddy and icy, and I almost stacked it like 10 times, but it was absolutely worth it. And now that I know what it looks like, I can't wait to come back at a different time of year where I can get better light and better conditions. For sunset, we went to a place called Paso Sella. We got there super early to scout the location, and originally the idea was to shoot a super windy road leading up to a mountain called Forcella del Sassalungo. But because we had so much time, I researched to see whether there were other shots or other vantage points that we could go to, and we ended up finding this amazing ridgeline and shooting that instead. And this ridgeline was a pretty sketchy one. You know, TK and I weren't game enough to climb the peak of it, but Mitch, aka the Mountain Goat, was. And huge shout out to him for doing so. We spent the rest of the afternoon and into blue hour getting heaps of different variations of that shot, and it turned out to be one of my favorite locations of the entire trip. A location that was completely unplanned and completely serendipitous. It's these kinds of finds that really make these types of trips worth it, and I'm super grateful that we were able to find this one. The last 2 days of my Dolomites trip was spent with just 2 sunsets, as we were getting pretty tired of getting up for sunrise so many times at this point. The first sunset was at Alpe di Susi, which after the 1 hour walk to get there was for me kind of disappointing, and I didn't really walk away with any shots that I particularly liked. We were there at kind of a strange time, not really enough snow to cover everything, and way too much snow to definitely see it all uncovered. So hopefully next time I come back, it'll be better. And the last sunset and the last shooting opportunity in the Dolomites for me was at Paso Pordoi. And we had some very interesting cloud formations and colors during sunset, so it was decent enough conditions for our last shoot here, especially with some last minute snowfall. And that's how I spent my 8 days photographing the Dolomites, a truly unique place in the world that I absolutely cannot wait to come back to during another season. From here, we went to Slovenia and Venice, but perhaps that's another story for another time. For now, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Ciao for now.